Welcome to St. Anthony's Catholic Church in Farnham Royal, Slough, England. Today is 1st of March 2026, the second Sunday of Lent. Today's Gospel is from Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 to 9. His face shone like the sun. At that time, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. And Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He was still speaking when, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell on their faces and were terrified. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Rise and have no fear." And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Tell no one the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead."
The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you." As we heard this morning from the book of Genesis, chapter 12, 1 to 4. God promised to bless Abram and to make him great. But there was a caveat attached to the proposal. First of all, Abram must leave his country, his kindred, and his father's house, and relocate, travel to another land, where God will build a great and prosperous nation from his family. Considering the fact that this proposal was made to him at the age of 75, it must have been extraordinarily difficult, tough for him. But he accepted it. He obeyed God and he moved. Generally speaking, moving from one's country means going perhaps into a new area, into a new land, where perhaps people speak a different language, have a different culture and orientation, eat different food, and behave entirely different. Apart from political, economic, and perhaps religious reasons, people don't usually make such movements, not in their 70s, because of familiarity and attachment. Because if you live in a particular place for relatively a long period of time, you become emotionally attached to that place, to the city, to the parish, to the people around. They hold special memories for us. And therefore, leaving that place to another place means that I'm going to lose my friends. I'm going to lose the relationship and social connections I have established over a period of time. I'm going to lose the social support I once enjoyed in that area. I'm going to lose the routine, the habits I have formed with the people around that area. I'm also going to lose my stability and the familiarity I have established living there over a period of time. And such familiarity usually creates in us some kind of comfort and sense of security. Now, in the case of Abram, it was even more complicated, because when God asked him to move from his land, he didn't tell him here where he was going. No map, no detailed information, explanation, not even the name of the place he was relocating to. It was like he was moving from the known to the unknown, from the certainty to uncertainty. All he had with him was the promise, move from your land and I will show you a new land. He had to move, not knowing where he was going, but he knew who asked him to move. His movement was not like a punishment. It was rather a preparation for something better, for more glorious and for brighter future. Faith sometimes requires movement. To trust God sometimes requires movement. Sometimes also, life becomes more meaningful when we move from where we are. Now, in my own experience, I would say that one of the most difficult decisions I have ever made as a person was in 2011, when I accepted to move from Nigeria to Switzerland for my further studies. It wasn't easy because for over 3 decades I have built my life in Nigeria. It was my home. I had my family there, my friends. It was a familiar environment. And in my own estimation and evaluation, I was doing so well. And in fact, it was my comfort zone. So asking me to leave was not very easy. But I had to obey. Boom, moving to Switzerland. It was entirely different and strange. I had nobody there. I knew no person, not even one person. So there was no connection. And then I had to learn a new language from its alphabet. However, the most embarrassing, and why I'm saying this story, was that I had to learn how to pronounce my own name. Because when I told them that my name was Nathaniel, they said, no, it is not pronounced Nathaniel. It is Nathaniel. I said, no, don't go there. I don't know what you are saying. My name for the past 30-something years has always been Nathaniel. I tried to resist. They insisted. I wanted to fight it so that everywhere, in the classroom, in the church, even on the streets, I will correct it. But I discovered that it was a lost battle. So for 6 years and a half I was there, I became Nathaniel. It was even difficult for some persons because there was a time I had to go to some pastoral assistant to give pastoral supply at Glasgow Cathedral. After that, I went back to Switzerland to continue my studies, but they needed me again in December or for December. So the secretary there called me, but she couldn't get through, so she called the school. So just to pass information for my attention. But the secretary in my school said to her, we don't have such name here. So during their conversation, the lady from Glasgow insisted, we know him. He came to us just a few weeks ago. He's from Nigeria. Oh, he's not whatever you call it. It's Nathaniel. So when I came for that job in December, they made a joke. So you have two identities. For us, you're Nathaniel, and there in your school, you're Nathaniel. But beside that also, in the midst of the difficulties and challenges, I wrote a 2-page letter to my archbishop, explaining in details why I must move back to Nigeria. In his wisdom, he replied that 2-page letter in one sentence. Dear Father Nathaniel, comma, every beginning is difficult, comma. You must learn to settle in, full stop. That was all. That reply hasn't left me. But then I discovered with that reply that it was meant to be that place. That Switzerland at that moment was a place of preparation for me. And when I look back now, I can say with every sense of gratitude that I made that movement. Because that movement played a significant role in my personal development I will say with every sense of gratitude to the school I attended that I discovered myself. I discovered my destiny, and I also improved on who I was. Although I was thinking that when I was in Nigeria, that was my comfort zone. So beside biblical records, from human experiences, movement has played significant role in people's life. For some people, it has opened opportunities for self-discovery, for personal growth and development, where potentials are discovered. In today's gospel, Jesus, to be transfigured, had to move from the ground up to the mountain. And he had to move to that place because, among other things, because of the symbolic meaning of mountain. But he had to move for that transfiguration to happen. It had to happen on the mountain, so he had to move. And for the disciples to also encounter and enjoy the glorious manifestation of Jesus Christ, they had also to move from where they were up to the mountain. Movement from where you are to somewhere else in order to encounter God, in order to also encounter yourself through self-discovery. There is always that movement. So the entire story of the call of Abram teaches us, among other things, that for certain promises to be fulfilled, for certain dreams to become realities, for certain blessings to become manifest, or be made manifest in our lives, we must necessarily move from where we are. It may not always be about moving from one country to another. It must not always be from moving from one city to another. It could also be moving from one employment to another. Because sometimes we think that where we are is the best place. And because of the security and the comfort we enjoy, we don't know that we need to move enough for us to grow or to develop or even to encounter God. So, dear friends, in this journey called life, we need at certain points to pause and examine our movements and ask ourselves certain questions. I hope where I am now is the right place for me to be in order to discover my God. I hope it is the place God destined for me. I hope I'm not in the wrong place. Or do I need to move away from the circle of friends I have in order to become a better person, to develop myself more? Do I need to move in order for me to enrich my entire life? In the case of Abram, God asked him to move from one geographical location to another in order to become the person he destined for him. Because it was only when that movement was completed that Abram became Abraham. If he had remained in his former place, perhaps he wouldn't have become the father of all nations. So he had to move. So in his own case, for him to encounter God more, for him to develop himself more, for him to experience what God has destined for him, he had to move from one geographical area. That is about Abraham moving from one area. What is God asking me? It could be that God is saying to me, Nathaniel, you may need to move from this habit that has crippled your personal development. You may need to reconsider this relationship that has drained your emotional and also your spiritual life. You may need to leave that resentment you have held onto for a long time. You may need to move away from this habit you thought that gives you sense of satisfaction or confidence. What is God asking me to move from? Is it from a place or from something or from somebody or from a thing? Thank God it is Lent. A wonderful time for us, again, to re-examine this journey. To know whether where we are on the right place, where God destined us to be. Or is he calling us into something else? It is a time also to know what I'm going to live in order for this journey to become more fruitful and ever glorious. However, while you are considering whether you are going to move, as your priest, perhaps I need to tell you, do not consider moving from this parish. This is our home. This is where we're supposed to be. So, dear friends, God asked Abraham to move because there was something for him in the other side. It took faith and trust for him to make that movement. And as I said, sometimes in our relationship with God, we must move from where we are in order to encounter him where he is.
Follow us for weekly Gospel and Homily service.